Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rob's Little Blue Book. Now with hopefully 50% less technical issues. Anyway, this will be the last stream here. Last stream. So this is the last time you're going to see this background. Last time you're going to see this kitchen. And I'm pretty confident that next week I can... hey, Rebecca. Pretty confident next week I can have things up and running. So fingers crossed. I'll see you guys next week. I even have a good idea for next week. I'm going to try and have good ideas every week. But it's already picked. So, and it's going to be a surprise. I think maybe I'll spoil it a little bit towards the end or give you a little bit of a hint. But, so anyway, last week we talked about vegan dishes. We talked about doing something fast. And we talked about pantry staples. And I thought I would just roll all those together tonight. And I want to talk, I think I'm going to prep and talk as we go, because there's a bunch of things I want to talk about. The first up is, what are we going to talk about first? Vegan food in general. So I've been doing a lot more vegan cooking lately, and one of the things that I'm starting to learn about vegan cooking, and it's almost too bad, is that they seem to, in order to sell it to people who aren't vegan, they create these recipes and these dishes that are like imitations of non-vegan food. And that really does vegan cooking a terrible disservice, because that's not really what it's about. You know, it's always like substitute this for that, and you're giving up this and substituting that. And that's really not what it's about. There's a whole plethora of fantastic ingredients that you can use in their own right that are just great. They're not substitutes. You're not compromising. You're just using something that's a little bit different. And another thing that I noticed is you're obviously not going to substitute one for one. So I made a vegan lasagna the other night. Yeah, no, it was vegan. Wait, did I use hand rolled noodles? I forget. I don't remember. Anyway, I might have used egg pasta, but I'm not vegan, so it doesn't really matter. But one of the things that recipe called for, which I didn't have, was what's called a tofu ricotta. And it's basically taking a soft tofu and whipping it and breaking it up, and adding a couple things which I don't remember to make like a ricotta-like product. And I was thinking, like, that has a totally different flavor. That's not by any stretch ricotta. And does it even make sense to do that, to substitute something that doesn't taste anything like ricotta in place of ricotta? Now, the tofu ricotta tastes great. It just doesn't taste like ricotta. And then I realized that part of what makes lasagna is not only the taste, but the presentation and the textures. And having that tofu layer in place of the ricotta is kind of important. Like, it's an important textural component of the dish, and just because it tastes different doesn't make it worse, or it's just different, but the texture is the same. And so the lasagna, it was excellent. Actually, it was really, really good. So yeah, that was something I hadn't really thought of before with all these substitutions, is that maintaining the integrity of the dish, the textural integrity of the dish, is also as important as the flavors. And you know, lasagnas come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes and flavors. So, you know, saying a vegan lasagna isn't good because it's not a traditional meat lasagna is ridiculous. I mean, you can have all kinds of lasagnas, vegan or not, you know, in a whole spectrum of flavors. So that was one of the things I was thinking about vegan cooking. I'm going to start doing a little bit of prep and talking as we go. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. And I'm not going to rush. So I know we said this. So this is something you can throw together in minutes. I'm not going to do that. The place is a mess, and we're moving, and I'm not going to rush through it. And I enjoy doing this, and I enjoy my cooking. And we've talked about this before. I understand sometimes you got to get dinner on the table, etc., etc., etc. But I don't cook that way. I'm not about doing things like super fast. It's not enjoyable to me, so I'm just not going to do it. But having said that, if you are in a hurry, you can do this dish very quickly. So we're doing a vegan pad thai today. And the first thing we got to do is we're going to take our rice noodles, and these are like super easy to use, okay? These just go into hot water for about 7 minutes, and then you rinse them and drain them, and then you just throw them in the dish at the end. So I'm going to do that real quick. I already have hot water back here. Show you guys what it looks like. It's just a big pot. This isn't even hot. The warm water is fine. I'm around 35, 40 degrees, and I do want those to sink in, but they will. I'll set a timer, and we're good to go. I also saw, so I'm going to show you a cool thing in a second, but I also saw an even cooler thing today when I was over at my brother's looking at a dining room table, is he got and it's a panel, man. It's so cool. It's a kitchen timer, and it's a panel. It's a 2x4 panel of like 8 programmable timers. And one of the things that I'm always doing in the kitchen is setting timers. My memory isn't great, and you set timers for certain things and you don't. Like a lot of times you cook by sensation, and you know when something's going to be done by the sound of it, or the noises it's making, or the way it looks, or it smells. Certain things you can tell. Other things you gotta set a timer for. Like your pasta, you know, if your pasta's 11 minutes, it's just easier to set a timer for that than it is to, you know, take a piece out every once in a while and see if it's done. So anyway, that's not the cool thing for this week. I just wanted to mention it because I really want one. The cool thing for this week, let's just do that real quick, is this. This is a tofu press. So we're going to do, as part of our dish, we're going to do a dry fried tofu. Not really to bulk it up, but just to give it some textural interest. And originally I didn't have any firm, this is extra firm in here, but I didn't have any originally. So I used, I put soft tofu, and this really changes the way you use tofu. It makes tofu incredibly versatile because this is a soft tofu. And this was like twice as thick before I put it in the press. So all the water's out of this, and it's just easier to cook with like this. And also it doesn't shed tons of liquid into your dish, which is not always what you want. However, I'm still going to stick with the, did this even shed? Yeah, so you can pour it out. I'll just show you guys, like, kind of like, I don't know how many to pour it into, but there's a little spout here, and you just pour off the liquid and you're good to go. So I'm going to take this out. I'll show you how this works. A big spring thing here for the press. This slides off. And this was like, I don't know, 30 bucks on Amazon or something like that. I think this is actually called the Tofu Buddy or something like that. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of them. And Tofu Bud. And I think if you're going to cook with tofu a lot, it makes sense to get one of these. So there you go. So we got our tofu ready, which I kind of wish I hadn't pulled out just yet. Let's put it with the other tofu. They can be tofu buddies. See, that's why I got his name. Okay. Thank you, Serena. I was really actually impressed with the veggie lasagna. Honestly, like even now, a little... I'm not skeptical of vegetarian cooking or veggie cooking, but for me, the way vegetarian cooking and vegan cooking has always been presented to me is, you know, substitutes of things and compromises and their side dishes. Like the vegetarian lasagna was like one of the first. Rebecca, so the vegetarian lasagna recipe I did out of the book was vegan. But I didn't have tofu, so I used ricotta, so that made it non-vegan. But I think that was the only non-vegan ingredient, and I don't imagine that would have changed the final dish all that much. Oh, that's not true. And I also had leftover Balanzoni filling in the fridge, so I piped that into the first layer because that was basically ricotta and mascarpone and parm anyway. So it was semi-vegan. I guess you can't be semi-vegan. It's like being semi-pregnant. But I am confident the vegan version would be just as good. And we're going to talk about pantry staples in a second. And I keep saying I'm going to start cooking. So let me see if I can do two things at once tonight. So the first thing we're going to do for our whatchamacallit, pad thai is to make the sauce. Now I decided to make this easy on you guys, and there are no specialized ingredients. We're not going to use tamarind paste or actual tamarind or anything like that. I wanted to make this easy. I wanted to make this something that you can just put together on a weeknight with stuff, you know, staples that are in your fridge or whatever. So we're gonna make the sauce first, which is lime juice. We need about like 2 tablespoons of lime juice. Let's see how we get there. Probably 2 limes worth. And so for our umami boost, instead of tamarind, we are going to use just soy sauce. So this is maybe a riff on pad thai. I make no claims to this being authentic in any way, but I am relatively confident it's going to taste really good. So that's kind of all that's important to me. This is also a fun dish to eat. And actually, for Thai dishes, this one actually reheats really well. Something else to keep in mind. So we want 2 tablespoons of lime juice, which is that much, and I'm not going to waste it down. 2.5, I guess. And we'll balance that with the same amount of soy. So we got 1, 2 generous soy. And I want a little bit of water. I got some water here. So maybe, I want 1.5 tablespoons of water here. About that much. And 1.5 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Should have done my dry ingredients first. Now I'm going to clean this thing. We're going to go with a heaping tablespoon of brown sugar. And you can make, as you do these things, you'll get a sense for your own palate. You know, obviously this is an umami, salty, sweet, sour dish. And I always sort of err. I'm not a huge sweet person in my dishes. So you can adjust the amount of sugar that you want. This is a tablespoon and a bit. And we're going to fire in some tomato paste. Brand new. Thank you, Serena. Maybe like 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste. And we'll just give this a whisk, and that's it. Your sauce is done. And you could also, if you're going to make, you could make up a batch of this. This will keep, of course, in the fridge for quite a while. And then you can just have it on hand and make a pad thai inspired dish anytime you want. Yeah, exactly, Paul. Also, just to give it a little more volume. It's not so much diluting the soy as it is just making more sauce, right? I do feel that it would be. My noodles aren't ready yet, guys, but we'll give them a little more time. I do feel that it would be very, very strong, Paul, if you didn't add like at least a little bit of water to it. So I'm going to do that. I don't need those. And let's talk about, so the other part of tonight was to talk about staples. I'm actually kind of managing 2 things at once here. It's not too bad. We're going to do some broccoli. And I had to think long and hard about that because, okay, I'm not talking about like oh, the sound is good. Yeah, I have the fridge off this time too. I'm not talking about staples in your kitchen that you're gonna have on hand, like sugar and flour and stuff like that. That's kind of like a given. Like you're just gonna have flour in your kitchen, and that doesn't really need to be said. I don't think. If you don't have flour in your kitchen, you probably should. I have. Well, they're at the new place now, but I probably got 7 or 8, 9 different kinds of flour maybe. But those aren't staples. You don't need all those. Oh, I got way more than that actually now that I think about it. But you don't need all of that. Like you just don't. I have a lot of different flours because they do a lot of different kinds of cooking. But the grade too salty. Okay, so Paul, when something's too salty, it's really hard to go back. Diluting it won't do the trick. It'll still be really salty. You can try diluting it. There's a trick with potatoes soaking up some of the salt too, which you can Google. I've never done it, but I'm glad the roast turned out. Okay, where was I at, guys? Oh, we're talking. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna stop and focus for a sec. Here's where I got to in thinking about staples for your kitchen, and I've always done this in the past. So when I learn a cuisine, so there's a bunch of different ways to do staples. One way is like when I can be big. When I commit to a cuisine and want to learn a cuisine, or just want to cook that way for a while, I will get all the staples together for that cuisine and just, have them on hand. So if I'm doing Italian, I'll just make sure I have all the staples I need for Italian cooking. And just give me a second, guys, just do the noodles here. Quick rinse. Okay. That was surprising. So that's one way to do it, is pick a cuisine. And the other advantage of that too is then you only have to buy fresh ingredients. You'll know, like, especially if you're working your way through a recipe book or something like that, you will know all of the things you need to have on hand, and you just go pick up your fresh ingredients. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to pick a book. Like, for example, I'm working my way through this one. How do we go on here? Thud Kitchen. This is my vegan cookbook. This is my brand new copy. I bought a copy of this for my daughter like a million years ago because she was doing vegan cooking for a bit. I had forgotten about it. But when I went to look for a vegan cookbook, or when you go to look for any cookbook, and I Googled, like what I always do, 10 best vegetarian cookbooks. And the top result on 2 or 3 lists was the same book. But it was 700 recipes. Like, that's crazy. What are you gonna do with 700 recipes? It's insane. So when I look for a cookbook, I don't want 700 recipes. I don't want any, really. But what I do want is, and what these guys do in this book, and all my cookbooks share the same theme. It's the person, the writer, the chefs, talking about how they cook, why they cook, their philosophy towards ingredients, and all that, things that make them chefs. And then there's a few example recipes to illustrate what they're talking about. That's what you want. So in Thud Kitchen, there are not, there might be 50 or 60 recipes in this book, maybe not even. But in terms of staples for this book, and they do a pretty good job laying it out in the beginning, you can pick up this book and buy the staples you need to cook from the book, and just go from there. And then know that you'll always have the stuff on hand. Like, their staples are like quinoa and millet and chia seeds, and chia seeds aren't really a staple, but it's in a couple of recipes. Oatmeal and things like that, and oil, and the particular kinds of oils you want to use. And speaking of oil, I just want to say, guys, I've kind of narrowed my kitchen oils down to 2 oils. I've given up on vegetable oil and canola oil. They're really there's nothing wrong with them, but they're super highly refined products, and there's no upside to using them. Like, it'll keep your food from sticking to things and do all the other things that oil does, but there's not a lot of upside to it. So I've switched over for my cooking oil. If I need a high smoke point oil, I've settled on peanut oil. Avocado oil is great, super high smoke point. Grapeseed oil is really fantastic for that as well. They just happen to be really expensive, and peanut oil is a solid substitute, and I don't feel bad about pouring this into my deep fryer. So this has become my high smoke point oil of choice. And of course I have olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. You can fry with, I wouldn't fry with extra virgin, it's kind of a waste, but, my sound is way up. You can fry with regular olive oil, but it just has a super low smoke point. So you got to be really careful with it. So I just had the 2. And so my extra virgin is kind of like my finishing oil. I use it in Caesar salad dressing to top things, to make salads or vinaigrettes or whatever. And I got my peanut oil for everything else. That may change, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. All right, back to prep. Any questions on staples? Did I blow? Oh, and then the other thing too is, hang on, I did have one more thing to say. You guys all have a blue book. You all have a little blue book, or you should have some variation of this. And the staples in my kitchen allow me to cook everything in this book. I mean, aside from the fresh ingredients, right? And so once you develop your little blue book and your collection of recipes, then you'll round out your own staples to make sure that when you want to make one of these dishes, that you have all of the staples on hand to make them. Like if I want to make tortillas, I always have lard in the fridge, and then flour and salt. Like, it's just not that hard. if I want to make, actually this is my old Alfredo recipe and I don't actually use that anymore. So people change, right? Like this is my OG Alfredo recipe. It's got cream in it. This is the old school like Italian American one, and I don't make it anymore because it's actually not very good. So there's a something that made it into the Little Ubu book that's probably coming out. But like risotto, I always have arborio rice, well carnaroli, but same thing, on hand. And in fact, we had risotto for lunch today because I had the staples in the kitchen, right? So anyway, they've got 3 avenues for it. Okay, pick a cuisine, get the staples. If you're gonna do Szechuan cooking, spend half a day at Galleria or TNT or whatever your favorite Asian market is. Get everything you need. Work through your book. You should always have the staples for your little book. That's kind of a given. Or find a cookbook that you really want to work your way through, right? It's okay to focus. Like I have a lot of cookbooks. But to be honest, I've worked through them one at a time. I hardly ever go back to them. I buy a cookbook because I respect the chef and I do all the stuff in the book. And I have it as a reference, but I hardly ever open them again. Once I've gone through the book and learned all the techniques, I take the recipes that I really like, they go in the Little Blue Book, and I have it if I need to go back to it or loan it out or give them away. I gave a whole bunch to my friend Carolyn when she moved. Anyway, there you go. I hope I covered staples. Yes, Spencer, you're exactly right. And let's just talk real quick about how to find a good olive oil, because olive oils range, extra virgin olive oil ranges in price for like $8.99 for Bertolli, which sucks, all the way up to like $35, $40 for artisanal bottles. And I'll tell you, and that's my opinion by the way, that Bertolli isn't good, but I'll tell you how I figured that out is I buy the olive oils and I taste them. You put them in a little dish and get some bread and I dip the bread in and I compare, right? So my favorite cookbook ever. Ooh, Paul, that's a really tough call. Okay, there's a couple. Okay, it's really hard because I mean all the cookbooks that I like I keep. But I will say that the cookbooks I have spent a ton of time with that were extremely rewarding for me. I think the very first one I got super into was Peace, Love, and Barbecue, which is probably the best barbecue cookbook you can buy. The only one you need if you want to do any kind of Southern barbecue. It is absolutely amazing. And it is not chock full of recipes. In Peace, Love, and Barbecue, there's probably 40 recipes in the whole damn book. But the way they talk about barbecue and the people they interview and you get a sense of how the whole thing works. And I think my other favorite is probably Ad Hoc at Home by Thomas Keller. And what are we doing for time? I'm not in a hurry tonight, guys. I'll tell you about Thomas Keller. This is a really funny story. Thomas Keller, of course, French Laundry, probably the best restaurant in North America, one of the top restaurants in the world. Brilliant chef. I love his philosophy for cooking and the way he thinks about food and ingredients and everything else. Incredibly inventive person. Genius, in fact. But he started French Laundry and it became enormously successful, and then he did another restaurant. He became like a corporate, not a celebrity chef, but like a corporate chef, like a menu planning, working for resorts and opening restaurants. He opened a restaurant, I think, in Boston and whatever. And he got really busy. But one of the things that he always wanted to do, was he wanted to have a diner, like a burger shack diner. And one came up available in California somewhere, I don't know where, and he bought it on spec. He just got to have it, but it sat there for 2 or 3 or 4 months or however long, and finally he wanted to do something with it. He just didn't know, and in the meantime, he's like got into a conversation with one of his other chefs about, and they were talking about staff meal, right? Like staff meals when the sous chefs or whoever happens to be on duty that night get together and they make a big communal meal for everybody on staff, and everybody eats before service. And it's usually simple but good stuff. And he was talking to a chef, and then one of his sous chefs who was from Portugal said, well, like for where I'm from, this is staff meal. And then somebody else from Brazil said, well, this is staff meal in the restaurants that I grew up in. And so Ad Hoc at Home, and so they opened Ad Hoc at Home, the restaurant, as not only a prix fixe, but only one thing on the menu. Like, there was one menu for the night. You showed up, you ate what they were serving, and it was staff meal, right? It was big family style service, and It's all amazing comfort food from all over the world. And people said he was crazy, that it would never fly. Nobody's going to show up and with only one thing on the menu, right? Now, it helped that he was Thomas Keller. You know, it didn't hurt. But anyway, it was a huge success. It's still there. And he wrote a cookbook about it called Ad Hoc at Home. And I love it because it's just, I love cooking those meals, those big family style meals. You get a whole bunch of people together and you pass the plate, you pass the bowl around. Everybody takes some, and it's, I don't know, it's egalitarian and it's fun and it's a rewarding way to cook for the people that are important to you. So, okay, that was a tangent. Anyway, I hope I answered your question, Paul, about my favorite cookbook. And I have a bunch of others. I got to say, those are the two that come immediately to mind. And I'm looking over here, you can't see, and I can't see because it's not there anymore, but I have my cookbook here. It's at the new place now. I was kind of looking there for inspiration, but those are the two that I remember. Okay, I really got to get going on this. We're going to do a shallot, okay? So any other questions, just fire them into chat as we go. I'm just going to kind of like go through this and... So, Spencer, what do you consider a gimmicky type cookbook? Like, what's... Like, 50 Shades of Chicken, yeah. I mean, the joke books are fun. Like, Serena, we have one somewhere called 50 Shades of Chicken. It was just like a riff on 50 Shades of Grey, obviously. It's cute. The recipes in it aren't very good, though, and that's the thing, right? Like, but if Spencer throws me a bone here, I'll try and answer his question. But if you're talking about like fad diet stuff like that, or keto or anything like that, not a huge fan of that. But if it's something else, I'm happy to answer your question. Okay, so we're gonna go shallots here. I'm just gonna start whacking this stuff out because we gotta get cooking. That's probably enough, actually. Okay, and shallots are gonna go first. Stack those in with the broccoli. We're gonna need some garlic here. We're gonna push that out real quick. I mean, I guess, Spencer, it comes down to who wrote the book, right? Like, if they contracted Thomas Keller or Eric Ripert to do the Bob's Burger book, it's going to be excellent. But if it's just some dude or dudette or whatever, I use dude as a gender neutral term, and I know that doesn't fly with everybody, but that's just kind of how I think about it. Then it's okay. I don't know. I mean, I have, yeah, and that's the problem with those books, is they're fun, and then you get there 2 or 3, but I guess that's what I do too, right? Like, even with the books I really like, I cook through the book, and then there's like 2 or 3 things that I really, really like, and they go in the Little Boo book, and I probably never open the damn thing again, or rarely anyway. So the scallions here, guys, this is just for, this is more for the topping at the end. This is going to go on at the end off the heat, but I'm just doing my prep here. Maybe I should have done this before. I don't know. I will say at the new place, depending on how I set it up, it'll be nice to have like a permanent, I can set up my setup permanently. French fries is an important skill to have, definitely. For sure. Okay. Oh, scallion. Even green onions, man. Killer. We're going to want a little cilantro, too. This is cilantro, guys. I don't need a ton. Again, this will go on at the end. So there's a couple of things. These are like garnishes that'll go on at the end. This is actually part of the dish. This will get stirred in. So I'm going to put these together because they go in at the same time. That's called scallions. Now, also with pad thai, you want your toppings here. I've got... oh, that is really good, Spencer. It's not Melt, is it? Is Melt the book you have? Because we have that one as well, and I love that book. So for toppings, I got some sprouts here. We're going to do a carrot real quick, like carrot shaving kind of thing. Let's get that done real quick. that. And I'm just gonna cheat tonight. I'm gonna mac and cheese cooker. Okay, we picked up a book. I can't remember where I saw it recommended, called Melt, which is, it's more than just mac and cheese. It's basically all kinds of cheese and pasta. Well, that's more than enough of that. So this can go in another topping bowl. We'll just put those in at the end. And these are just julienne carrots, guys. You can julienne your carrots any way you want, but I'm kind of like, I don't use the mandolin enough, so I thought I'd break it out tonight. What else do I want on top? We got spreads. Oh, I want some peanuts. Where are my peanuts? Fortunately, I'm not allergic to peanuts. Probably the only nut I'm not allergic to. No, mandolin's not cheating. Of course it's not cheating. People like get all up about it, about, you know, there's a certain group of gatekeepers out there where if you're not using a chef's knife for everything, you're not a real cook, and I think it's a load of crap. I just use whatever's easiest for me, right? So, okay, so hang on. Let's toppings. We got carrot. Oh, and a little cabbage. You want a little cabbage? That's gonna be my other topping. I'm running out of like ramekins here. Here's one. So normally I would do. And that was the other thing about tonight was supposed to be, was like what's in the fridge, because we're moving. So there was 4 things, and normally, guys, I would use. Normally I would use green cabbage to top pad thai, but I had this in the fridge, so there you go. Let me use this one. Just slice it up real thin. Actually, don't need a lot of this, but whatever. Come on. I'm only making 2 portions, so that's probably enough. And we'll put this in here. There we go. Okay, so down these are our like toppings down the line. It's good. What else do we have to do for prep here? Scallion, cilantro. Oh, we're gonna fry the tofu. Got the other toppings done. Coleslaw is kind of a little bit of each. I gotta be careful. If I make it, it's fine. I can't eat a lot of it. Okay. Do I have everything on my prep list here? I do have a list, so I always work from a prep list. Got the garlic shallots. I think we're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to fry up our tofu. And this is called a dry fried tofu, and I have a feeling it's supposed to be because it's better for you, and it probably is. So let's see if we can make that happen. Where's my big... Actually, you know what? I gotta slice the tofu. I need my cutting board back. I moved my... Yeah, saw's good. I moved my good cutting... Not my good cutting board, my preferred cutting board. They're both good. This one's a little big, so I don't use it as much. And this is big, you know, when you talk about fitting stuff into your kitchen, the reason I don't like this cutting board, as well as it's a little big for the counter, is it's a pain in the ass to wash because it doesn't fit in the sink. So we're gonna do, I don't know, like 1/4 inch slices, I think, like that. Can you guys see how thick that is? Just like that. And I'm not gonna do all this. This is a lot of tofu. And so this is extra firm tofu, and it's like really extra firm now because I squeezed all the water out of it. What do you think? You think it's enough? Maybe one more. Okay. So let's get cooking, literally. This is really easy to do. And you can, God, I can't remember the name of it. If you don't want to do this part and you're less concerned about the health part of it, you can buy deep fried tofu like at an Asian grocer. Can't for the life of me remember what it's called. Agate or something like that. My son Finn loves it, but I don't remember the name. Okay. Yeah, the soy went in the sauce, right? I'm sure it did. So this heat up real quick. Any questions? No, I feel like we're moving along. Yeah, it's only 7:35. We're gonna get this done. Maybe do a little like clean up here. Get some of this stuff out of the way. Yeah, my fridge and freezer now are almost empty, which is kind of where I want to be since we're moving. Okay, yeah, and these are just gonna go in dry. We want to hear a good sizzle. Hopefully, you guys can hear it too. There we go. That's what I wanted to hear. If you don't, press your extra firm tofu, and you don't really have to. I just wanted to see what would happen. The steam, they scream, which is a little unnerving. And we want good color on both sides of these, and then once they're fried up, I'm probably going to cut these up into like, I don't know, like bite-sized pieces, right? And then we throw everything in the wok and we're good to go. Okay, we've got 3 minutes. Actually, we have 6 minutes, guys. What are we going to do? Questions? I'd say talk about next week, but I've already decided what next week is going to be. And it's going to be really fun next week. I found one of the things that I find really, really interesting is how different cultures adopt different ingredients. And there's the... whatchamacallit? There's the army stew that they make in Indonesia and throughout that region, which is, it's got like spam in it, and it's got a lot of really American ingredients because they were cooking with the stuff they could get from the American military bases, and it became like a codified dish in its own... Okay, Paul, that's a really good question. It depends on the wok. If you have a carbon steel wok or a steel wok, you want it basically as high as you can get it. Now, my wok that I use all the time, it has a non-stick coating, and then the problem with a non-stick coating is it will break down and stop being effective, and you'll ruin the pan if you use it over heat that is too high. So for a wok, like ideally, if you have I don't know, Paul, do you have a gas stove? I don't even know. If you have a gas stove and you can get a wok ring and an actual, not flat bottom or proper wok, then it can't be too hot. You want it like ripping hot all the time. But you can't do that with a non-stick wok, so it's always a little bit of compromise. Okay, I'm going to kind of peek at the other side of these because I feel like... Oh, not quite. So it's going faster than I thought it would, but I also got the heat up quite a bit. But it's going to take the full 3 minutes. So we're like 3 minutes aside for this, guys. Just the way it goes. No, still okay. Still okay. Really hot. And I've got the heat up probably too. This is also a non-stick pan. You kind of want to do this in a non-stick pan. You could do this in cast iron. But there's no reason not to do it non-stick except for the fact that you can ruin your pan if you're too hot. Non-stick pans just don't last forever. That's the other thing, right? Okay. These are good. I can just tell. These are ready to be flipped. And that's the color we want to see. Probably, if you're doing this, maybe use tongs or something. This pan is quite hot. But yeah, that's it. This is exactly what we want to see. Just that color. I'm going to reset my timer and we're good to go. Yeah, I really actually like the way this looks. And this, honestly, looks exactly like the stuff that you get in the package at the store. Maybe I might be able to. You guys have any interest in doing like an outdoor episode? Like we have a back deck now. I could set up outside and do. I don't know, like a smash burger one or a barbecue one or something like that. I don't know. That could be fun. It's really distracting. There we go. These are coming along perfectly. Any other thoughts on, does anybody actually cook vegetarian or vegan on a regular basis? You gonna ask that question? Oh, plates in the oven. Plates are in the oven. I'm just gonna turn them on, so let's do that. Not quite, okay. Another little tray. I mean, I'm really enjoying the focus on, I mean, I guess vegetarian cooking by almost by definition is a little healthier. Like, don't get me wrong, I just, too much probably, but I love the super rich foods and dishes. But I'm finding that over the years, you just can't eat them every day. You just can't. It's just too much in your body at some point. And I don't know, like for me, if I go through a phase where I'm eating just a lot of like really heavy fatty foods, eventually I stop being able to stomach them. Like my body just goes, yeah, no, I don't want that. I mean, I don't even find them appetizing. So meals that I would normally like down for, I'm just like, no, I don't want that. So. Yeah, that's an issue around here because Serena's not a huge fan of chickpeas, legumes, lentils, is lentil a legume, and beans, which is a significant part of vegetarian cooking. So we may have to, I don't know what we're going to do about that, but I'm working around it because that's what I do. But yeah. Okay, feel good about the way this looks. I'm going to let it cool down before I cut it up. Because we do have to, oh, I ran out of space. Shit. There we go. And we get our wok up to temperature here. So we're just going to, oh, you know what I got to do, guys? I think I do have to cut that up before we get going. Give me 2 seconds. Because this gets tossed in. We're going to go for bite-sized pieces. So don't, obviously if you're doing this at home, wait for these to cool down before you cut them. Like, shit. Stack them up maybe. Maybe stacking them like them less hot. And I want bite-sized pieces. I don't know. I'm thinking like in half and half. Yeah, I was going to do that. Yeah, definitely if you're doing this at home, wait. Don't do it like that. But there you go. So I think that's going to be a nice bite-sized piece. Okay. Now we can get cooking. And Sabrina, I'm finding the same thing with the creativity part of it. And I like being creative in the kitchen. Like, it's fun. So, okay. Here we go. I got my noodles behind me. So, and when you're doing, anytime you're doing like a pad thai or a stir fry or anything, you do want to be like kind of set up and on the ball. So I'm going to bring these around. I usually lay my ingredients out in the order I'm going to use them. Maybe that seems really picky or whatever, but I know like I've got shallots for a couple of minutes, broccoli for a couple of minutes, garlic till it's fragrant. The noodles and the sauce will go in. Where's my sauce? And this goes in off the heat at the end, and I just like move my way around the arc. Oh, oil. So one of the things, of course, since we're talking about woks, is a flat bottom wok is kind of like dumb, to be honest. The whole point of a wok is to concentrate that oil in a very small space in the bottom of the curve so that you can stir fry your food. You move it through the hot oil. A flat bottom wok just is almost, it's an oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense at all. Having said all that, I don't have a gas stove, and I don't think I can actually get a wok ring for this stove. I should look into that actually. Anyway, if you have a gas stove, get a wok ring and a proper wok. It would change the way you do stir fries and everything else. Still, we're making do with what we got here tonight. I want 2 minutes on my my shallots, and so for this particular recipe, you can let your shallots go quite dark, almost like charred at the edges. This is a high heat wok thing. We're not sweating these, and they're going already. Maybe a little high actually. And then our broccoli's going to go in. This goes quick now. And despite all my tangents and rambling, we're actually going to be done in reasonable time. As I said, not that I'm in a hurry. So I got a giant shallot piece here. I don't want that. I don't want that in my pot, pan. Smells so good. Wish you guys be here. Hey Paul, thanks for coming out. I'll see you when I see you. Have a great night. Wow. Okay, so this is going faster than I thought. I'm going to let these go a little bit longer, but probably not the whole 2 minutes. Yeah, that's about as dark as I want to get them. Okay, so we're just going to, I don't know why I set the timer. I just need to eyeball this. You know, spend all that time talking about how you'll know when you know you're cooking, and then I go and set a timer. Actually, a little bit light on oil here. There we go. All right, let's see what happens in 2 minutes. So you don't want your broccoli to get like, have a good night, Rebecca. You don't want your broccoli to get like soggy. You do want it cooked through. Broccoli can be a little tricky, especially depending on the size of the piece you cut. I try and keep my broccoli pieces pretty consistent in size because you want them to cook all the way through. You don't want them to be limp and soggy. And for broccoli, that can kind of be like, the transition period can be pretty small. So. Come along, come along. Okay, broccoli's almost there. You can see it's getting a lot smaller, a lot more cooked. Don't think I'm going to let it go the whole time though. I think the broccoli's almost done. Maybe a little bit longer. Get back in there. A little bit longer. Okay. No, not quite. Really eyeball on this one. Okay, so time for noodles and sauce. And I'm gonna go, I just know I'm gonna need most of the sauce, so I'm gonna go with like, oh no, garlic. I almost forget. See, talked about like going around the clock or my arc or whatever. Almost forgot the garlic. Garlic, again, just till it's fragrant. With this heat, that's going to hit like right now. Whew. Sauce, noodles, get everything tossed up and then we're going to let's just take a sec. There we go. And then just get your noodles covered. Come on. There we go. And I do try like, this is going to take a couple of seconds to get like properly cooked. I do like to incorporate the broccoli in the noodles, which kind of means giving it like some pretty good tossing. Broccoli could have been a little bit smaller, but I feel like the size is about right. It is. It's a very vibrant dish. I'm pleased. And again, you know, we talked about that a million times. People, you eat with your eyes too, right? It's not just about. Ooh, looks so good. It's not just about. This actually needs a shot of water. Give me a sec, guys. There we go. Just need a little bit more going on here to finish cooking these noodles. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to let that go just a tiny bit longer. I'm done. Perfect. Okay, great. So, maybe, you know what? It's just a... I turned the heat down for a sec. It was a mistake. There we go. That's what I want to see. You get a feel for what it's like, consistency and what it's supposed to look like after you do this a few times. It's just... And of course Paul left, but this is the adding the water part consistency. Now they're starting to mush, they're done. Okay. And then again we have our scallions and cilantro go in. Those a good stir. Oh, and then of course the tofu goes in. It's already pretty hot. Heat back. And again, pad thai is not a dish that needs to be like served piping hot. But I do want my tofu like how is that? So good. Okay. Feel that that's ready? Okay, let's serve this up. Ready to eat. Plates are very hot. They're toppings. I'll show you in a sec. Give me a sec. So we got a good slug of noodles in each bowl here. A lot of noodles. Let's get some broccoli and stuff on each. So now, wow, these are massive portions. Okay, so this might have, I don't know, they said it serves two, but I have a feeling it's going to be more than that. Ooh, hot. Okay. And then over top, we go like some peanuts over both. A little more peanuts. And some carrots over top of everything. And I think red cabbage is going to be a nice choice tonight. So red cabbage to go over everything. Okay. Let me serve this to Serena, and I'll be right back, and we'll do put that out for you guys to have a look at, and we'll do a taste test. Wow, it's really hot. And maybe a few bean sprouts. I love bean sprouts. The only problem I have with bean sprouts is they come in a huge package, and they kind of go like instantly bad the next day. Okay, I'm gonna dig in. Any questions? You guys can see that okay? Can I hold it up so you guys can have a look? Let's do that. I mean, it's not a bad looking dish, eh? And vegan. So let's see. Wow, it's like really hot. And I love noodles of all kinds, so I just want to dig into the noodles. So the noodles are perfect. It's so good. And I didn't over sauce this one. I normally, wow, it's good. So, nailed the broccoli. Yeah, I know, Serena, and you know what? I cut the sugar in it by a fair bit. So that's maybe something we adjust going forward. But, God, guys, I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm just going to eat for a second. Give me a sec. Yeah. So I like my my Asian dishes really saucy. For me, I might add a little more sauce, but most people don't. So there's that to consider as well. I think this is the perfect balance for 95% of the people. If I was doing it again for me, as I said, I would add maybe just like a little. It's really good. The texture of the noodles is great. And, you know, this was kind of out of the fridge. I really like the tofu. I'm sorry. Now I'm just stuffing myself. Okay, guys. Well, that's what I wanted to cover. You know? And you saw, like, despite all my rambling and everything else, the actual prep, even including frying up the tofu, which you could do at any point during the day, this whole thing went together in 20 minutes. So, not like super fast, but I mean not slow either, right? So, anyway, very happy with this version of Pad Thai. I mean, I'm a big fan of the traditional Pad Thai as well, which I don't think we've done on a stream yet, so maybe that's another thing to sort of step towards. But I have next week planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a breakfast thing next week, and I think I've only done a breakfast thing. Oh no, I did Eggs Benedict too. I rarely do breakfast on stream, but it's an important part of your day, and you should eat first thing in the morning. So we're going to do breakfast next week, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's a Hong Kong iconic diner meal. So hopefully everybody will come back for that. Anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off and eat my pad thai while it's still warm. If you have any questions, ask me next week because I'm kind of done. Have a great night, everybody.